Lesson 114 is our second part of probability, and it's also talking about independent events, which also is a concept within probability. Our first question says, a fair coin is tossed 3 times. What is the probability it will come up heads every time? So a fair coin means it's just not weighted to one side or the other, so that it would land on one side or the other more often than not. So if we've got a fair coin, what's the probability it will come up heads every time? And one way to do this problem is to draw out a tree diagram, a sideways tree diagram, of our possibilities for what can happen. So if we toss a coin, we could get a head or a tail. Now in this case, we want a head, so we're going to circle that. So if we had one toss, the probability of getting a head would be 1 out of 2, because there's 2 possibilities. We know that. It would be 50%. Now if we toss again, we want to go from heads to heads again, but we could go from heads to heads or heads to tails. We want heads to heads because we want heads 3 times in a row. But if we have gotten tails the first time, we could have also gotten heads, or we could have also gotten tails. If we throw our coin again, or toss our coin again, we could get heads or tails, and we know we want heads, 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 so here is what we want, the third head in this line. Tails could have come back heads or tails. Heads could have come back, well, we're running out of room here, heads or tails. And tails could have come back heads or tails. So if we look at this third time, there are a total of 2, 4, 6, 8 possibilities. The only way that we could get a head all 3 times would be 1 out of 8. And we've got our answer. What's the probability it will come up heads every time? 1 out of 8. Now an alternative way we could have done this problem is to say, well, the first time I toss a coin, the probability of getting heads is 1/2. Then I'm going to multiply it by 1/2 because the second time I toss a coin, the probability of getting heads is 1/2 again. And the third time, the probability is still 1/2 of getting heads. So if I multiply those together, we can find our answer. We must have 1 as our numerator, and 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So we've got the same thing. For this type of problem, we can use a tree diagram that goes sideways. Or we could go ahead and multiply by the probability of each event, and we'll get the same answer. You pick which method you like better. Let's look at another example. A fair coin is tossed 4 times and it comes up heads each time. What is the probability that will come up heads on the next toss? This is a fair coin. A fair coin will always have the same probability of coming up a heads or a tail. Well, that's 1/2. Because 1 out of every 2 times we throw it, we should get a head, and the other time we should get a tail. It doesn't matter what happened previously. Even if it came up heads 4 times in a row, the chance that this is a fair coin, that it will come back as a head the next time, is still only 1/2. You could report your answer as 1/2, or you could report your answer as 50%, or 0.5. All 3 answers are correct. All 3 will give you full credit. Lesson practice will be on page 356. Make sure you've got your notes complete, and I'll see you soon.